Hello. So I see just two people on. I'm going to go and check. There we go. I am going to wait for Barb to hop on. I'm not sure what our attendance will be like today. Welcome. Let me know if you're just coming in. I always like to do with these Zoom calls is to just see where everybody's coming from. As you may or may not know, Barb and I are actually both in Connecticut. Here she is. We used to work together many years ago at a gym in our town. And that's how we met. And we go way back. Hi, there she is. Let's get you off mute. You got to unmute yourself, Barb. There you go.
Okay.
Let me get the volume up. How's it going?
It's going great.
Are you at home?
I have a little stuffy nose, but it's great.
Oh, please don't tell me you have COVID.
I don't know. I just dropped off a test to one of my 90-year-old client. She has it. And I had a mask, but she asked me to drop her off a test. I didn't train her yesterday.
Yeah. You're like, I don't think we're going to do that.
But then she asked me if I'd make her some cream of wheat. And I said, sure, hold on. I made it. I got it. And then I went to leave. I said, I've really got to go. I've got to get home. She said, could I just have some raisins and a quarter banana and a little milk on my cream of wheat? I said, and I'm out. I did the whole test for her.
Oh my gosh. That's so
Anyway,
fun.
you know what? We do what we do.
Do what we do. Exactly. All right. So I'm gonna I have a feeling this is usually how this goes.
Okay.
All folks trickle in. So I don't get into anything monumental, but I do ask everybody when they come on to, number one, don't feel compelled to. I know the Zoom thing seems a little bit like you might be shy or you don't want to take yourself off of your camera, or I like to see faces, but I totally get if you are at work and you don't want to be doing that. You just want to listen in, which is totally fine. So Barb and I are here. Number one, you know what my face looks like already. Barb is the one in the chat talking to you guys. So as I mentioned, Barb and I know each other from, I don't know, 25 years now, something like that.
I think it is.
Yep. Lots of time in the same gym. And so we still live in the same area, and she is still personal training. And yeah, so you guys are in good hands with somebody, as far as like fielding your questions and things like that. So it's just been a great asset to have as part of the team for this Stronger You summer session, which, as I mentioned to you guys before, I was not, I was sort of, wasn't necessarily planning to run this program in the middle of the summer, but there were enough people reaching out to me that had either started my Straight Up Strength, which is my slightly more intermediate, I don't want to say advanced, but more intermediate program. And it just wasn't the right fit. What I was finding is that there were some ladies who were sort of falling through the cracks with the foundations. And there's nothing worse than feeling like things are moving too fast for you and that you're trying to catch up. And I want to talk about that a little bit today, because I know, Barb, you've probably been seeing it in the chat as well, kind of like this, I had a setback, I have to take the week off, the next thing I know, a week has gone by, what do I do?
Right.
So I definitely want to touch on that because it's a very common concern, and it comes up all the time. Every single program I've ever run online, it doesn't happen so much. And I don't know, like, you probably don't find this in person either when you're doing personal training sessions, because your client is expecting you to take the lead. But when we're in a group situation where there's a starting date and
Yes.
we're coaching these ladies for 6 weeks, they might feel like, oh,
I've only got 6 weeks. I've got
yeah,
to get in.
yeah. So I'm going to actually put it on you. What would you say? What would you say to that?
Well, the one thing, Jen, is that they can extend it. You've got this extension that they can continue to work out. I like how you always say to them, just pick up today. You don't have to go back. You don't have to make it up. Pick it up today, unless, of course, they've taken a couple weeks off and they're not ready for the progress that you've already worked the progress in to the program. You've got it really well laid out so that they progress. If they've lost a couple of weeks, I think that they really do need to go back and start where they are and say, okay, I'm really only in week 3. I need to do week 3 so I can be prepared for week 5 if they've lost a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think it's to Barb's point, like, whether you did the back to basics, beyond the basics, or the combo, you still have 6 weeks, sorry, 6 months total in the app. So
Right.
the programs will keep resetting themselves. So let's say you're doing back to basics, you finish it in 6 weeks, it's just going to start again. So you could keep repeating it. And quite frankly, I always say, like, when it comes to strength training, it's like there's no real new exercises. There's just maybe newer way. There are infinite possibilities with how to program a workout. But what I've really endeavored to do in this program for you all is to just really give you the foundations of where everything starts. So even if you want to get more fancy and advanced, you still have to get the basics down, right? You still have to understand how to squat properly and deadlift and hold a plank and do an overhead press and things like that. And, I think it's a foundational program in that if you're starting to pick up on weak links, which is another thing I want to talk about today, then like, okay, this is something that I really either need to modify or that is going to be a good idea for me to work on, right? Spend a little time maybe addressing some of these weaker links. And so again, with the program, you can continue to repeat and refine. And what I'm hoping that you will find, and this is part of the reason why we do the workouts 2 weeks in a row. I have said to women in the past, I'm like, even if you wanted to extend that out and just do it a third week, you absolutely could do that. Like,
Sure.
it's not, there's a lot of different ways to progress a program.
Right. But you've done a great job, Jen, in me watching the program. You've done a great job in stacking these exercises where I think progress is being realized. And I think the concern is as you're progressing, when you skip a week or you've had a setback, we call it a setback. I don't look at it as setback. I look at it as life. Am I going to not progress? There's
Yeah.
that concern. Am I going to not progress? So I think the questions are viable, but I think everyone needs to understand that their program is not going to look exactly like someone else who's doing the same program, and their body's not going to look the same. And we've got a number of our members who have back concerns, knee concerns, hip concerns. That's all got to be modified and paid attention to personally on each member's workout strategy.
Yeah, and if I do anything, and I would imagine Barbie are kind of in the same camp, it's like the goal of a trainer or a coach is to empower the client to be able to understand how to be discerning for themselves too. I mean, that's part of coaching. It's not necessarily as prescriptive, like, hey, just do this and go on your way.
Right,
We
right.
like and this is why I get kind of funny when I said this morning. I was teaching my VIP group live, and I said, it's not, somebody said to me, I wish you told us exactly how many reps to do. I said, I can't tell you that, because I can't tell you how many reps are going to be productive for you. This is a trial and error sport. Like, you dive in, you do the thing, you listen to your body. And so I know that when you're a beginner, that's probably hard to hear, because you're like, well, wait, I want I want an exact number, which is why I give you ranges and descriptions like moderate weight. What does moderate mean to you? So I would love to know actually on that topic. And I know there's only a few of you here, but do you feel like, well, let me ask you this. Do you have at least 2 weeks under your belt? Like, this program has been running actually for 4 weeks, but do you have at least 2 weeks of workouts under your belt, which means you've repeated them twice? And do you feel like maybe you are, getting the hang of it, or that you're feeling maybe a little bit more fluent and fluid? Because that's going to be, I think, a really good, I think that's a very good determining factor of results. Like, talk a lot about what results, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks isn't enough for a full body transformation, but it's absolutely enough to start to notice changes in as far as like your stamina, your posture. And I've read a little bit of that. Some of the gals in there, like, I already actually feel like I'm standing taller. I'm like,
Yeah.
those are results. There's 100 different results you can get from a strength training program.
And every result you get is so affirming. And some of them surprise you. You've
Yeah.
carried groceries out to the car and you thought, wait, that wasn't a struggle. It kind of, they sneak up on you, which is it's kind of fun when that happens.
And I think if you're paying attention, right? I think it was Meg Conti in there who said, I noticed that my knees don't hurt as much when I'm walking my dog. I'm like, again, a result. That's a win,
That's
right?
right.
Yeah, lower back pain is diminished. Whatever it is. So I would really encourage you to take that, those small moments where you do start to notice changes. I know women are so classic about, and there was a lot of this when we first started, about I want my body to change. I don't know, like the way it looks. But I think if you start there is that I understand that that might be what gets you in the door, but if that's the litmus test that you're solely focused on, it's going to be really hard to stay motivated because honestly, that's going to be probably one of the last things to come. And then when it comes, it's like, oh, this is just what I do. Like, at that point, this
Yeah.
stuff become a part of your life. And actually, Barb, I would actually love for you to talk about this because I know this was probably before I knew you, but you lost a significant amount of weight at one point in your life, didn't you?
I did. I lost quite a bit of weight. Yeah, 50 pounds.
Yeah, and I didn't know you until after that. And I remember that you were in the locker room and you said, I mean, you must have been, this was 20 years ago, so you were like in your late 40s. You said, I just knew I needed to do this once and for all in my 40s. Like it was something you were like so matter of fact about it.
Once and for all. Yeah, I had to because um, my father passed away from high blood pressure at a very young age, and I was a match for him for a kidney donation. But at the time, I was a minor. But because I was the most like him, I had a lot of his tendencies. One of his tendencies was high blood pressure. So the point of deciding to even do this for a living was kind of a testament to my dad. Like, had he known what I learned as a young adult, he probably could have maybe controlled or helped himself along the way. He was very young when he passed away. So the doctor who took our family under his wing said, "You are very heavy. You are very um, prone to exactly what your father went through." And that was enough to scare me. It was almost a fear factor of saying, you cannot live your life this way because you have a health condition. And if we start to medicate you now, you'll be on medication your whole life. And that shook me to my core to say, I don't want to live on medication the rest of my life. So I went through the process of a very prescribed program where I was checking with a doctor who who got to know me very well, who said, "Barbara, you have every excuse in the book and you should do this for a living because no one's ever going to tell you something you haven't already done." When I say I could put a batch of bread in the bread baker and get up in the morning and eat it while it was still warm, the whole loaf.
Yeah.
He's never heard anyone say that before. I said, "Well, I can do that. I have an immense appetite. I don't have a great appetite.
Telling you how it is.
I don't have a great appetite control switch."
Yeah.
So I had to relearn really how to live. And as I watched my blood pressure go down, as my weight went down, I really made the correlation. Like, this guy isn't just snowballing me. I can live, not go on medication, but I have to really get this 50 pounds off. Now, when I went to the doctor, I thought I had 10 pounds to lose. I was quite surprised to find out I was in denial that
Yeah.
it would be 50. So it took gosh, over a year and a half, or almost 2 years actually, of really learning how my body was going to adapt and adjust. And of course, working out was a big part of it. And I call it the perfect marriage. There's only one, and it's eating, watching what you eat, and moving your body. And that is the perfect combination. One isn't going to do it all, the other isn't going to do it all, and drinking water. So the doctor had a little theory. He said, you get three things, Barb, every week I need to hear from you: what you ate, how much you moved, and how much you drank. And he meant water, he meant hydration. He said, all of my patients can do 2 in a week, but by the time they say the third, they say they come in, they say, I ate great, I worked out, I never drank any water. I drank water, I worked out, my food was terrible this week. So
Yeah.
it's really a 3-part program. And it took me, a year and a half, 2 years to realize I could maintain it. And then I decided I'm going to do this for a living because, as he said to me, you're one of my most resistant clients with more excuses than anybody I ever met. You better just do this for a job because you're going to have to check in with somebody for the rest of your life. And there
So
I am.
well, and it's interesting too, because, and I say this too a lot with the marketing online thing, you'll see a lot of coaches who have had their own transformation. And I'm like, I don't necessarily have that calling card. I mean, yes, I gained 40 pounds in each pregnancy and whatever, but I also would be keen to say that like, but the reason why I've been able to stay sort of in a weight range that's comfortable for my body is because I'm always, I'm not neurotic. I don't track every gram, but I'm aware. But that, but that's a lifetime of practice. And I think for you, and I would love for you to chat about that, because I think it's something that women need to hear, that like, if you have a lifetime of habits, and especially when you're women 40 plus, you have a lifetime of habits. I see a lot of women filling into well, I only had to like give up X food and the 5 pounds would fall off. It's like, if you continue to do that, you're never really understanding how to eat at maintenance. You're not understanding the habits that you need to employ, so that, like what Barb's saying, you're getting the exercise and your nutrition and your water all to work synergistically, so that it's not so hard anymore. So that it is just, as I would say, what you do, because that's how you do life.
It's what you do, right? And it's hard. It's that transition of, wow, I'm just doing this now. It's such an aha moment. It doesn't even hit you all at once that this is how I want to live my life. I don't want to have to go on a diet every year to lose weight. It's more of a it's what you do, and you don't feel good. And here's the other great turning point: when you don't feel good when you don't do it. That is when I don't feel good because I have not been doing it, having just come away from a recovery of a broken kneecap, 7 months of recovery, not able to do a lot of the same workouts. All of a sudden, though, what you eat
more
goes up on the scale of importance, because I couldn't do cardio much. And suddenly it's like, wait, now the balance has changed. I've taken some fitness work out of my life. So how do I balance this without coming away having weight to lose? So then suddenly how you eat and how much water you get went up. Exercise had to stay at a level that I could maintain. And so, but you learn as you play with all of that, because focusing in on the only focus on your eating will wear you down. It's just too problematic.
It's fatiguing. And I think what I have found in the years that I've been nutrition coaching is like, there's a lot, what I have found is 9 times out of 10, women just don't understand how to eat at maintenance to begin with. So they're either thinking I have to be on a diet, or I don't want to think about it at all. And I'm like, I assure you there is a middle ground, but it's going to take some work to get there. I would love you, actually, this wasn't even planned to talk about, but I think it has a lot of value, because I know there are a lot of women, even if they're not here live on the call, that will listen to this. What would you say to somebody who does have, I talked to 3 women this week. I have 40 pounds to lose, but I'm doing nothing. I'm doing nothing about it, because I said, because you're focused on something so far away. The journey to 40 pounds starts with the first 5.
That's it. And that's really all you can. I could only manage 10 at a time. When I tell you I went to the doctor to lose 10 pounds, I was focused on, I said, I can't think about 50. I can't even think. I'm here to lose 10. Get me through 10. And what I did is 10, 10, 10. Sometimes I maintained. After 25, I held for a while.
Okay.
And it was fine. Now on my refrigerator, I don't know if you all remember Cheryl Teagues, the model. She was on my refrigerator as a role model. And I know at some point I said to myself, she's almost 6 foot tall. You are 5'4". She's not a good role model. She came down. Cheryl Ladd, who's more my height, I put her on the refrigerator as a role model.
Yes.
But I also had to recognize, as I lost weight, after 25 pounds, I had much higher expectations of what I was going to look like. My doctor had a good point. Go home, put 25 pounds of products on your kitchen table, a couple of 5-pound bags of sugar, flour, butter. I want you to look at 25 pounds of goods and say, that's what I lost. And that was the most encouraging thing I could have done, because I wanted that new body at 25 pounds and I had 25 to go. So I needed encouragement. I needed motivation, but I had to get a realistic headset, because my headset was not where it needed to be. And I was expecting miracles. And it's a long, hard process. But like you say, Jen, I say 4 days in and you begin to feel better. It really, you just have to keep plugging 5 pounds at a time, 5 pounds at a time. You can't look at 40 pounds. There's nowhere to begin. It's feeling better today. And I will also say, getting through your first weekend. Hello, Ellie. My cat loves Zoom because she thinks everyone's talking to her. All the years I taught on Zoom, she would come out and say Hi to everybody. Hi, Ellie. So lost my train of thought. I do that a lot. I'll come back to it.
No, you were saying, and I was still with you there, like 40 pounds is it's a big ask, and it's mentally very taxing. And we have this expectation that but you had said this a couple weeks ago, like we expect that the fat loss is going to be linear when in
Oh,
truth, how it works. And you really should, your body, metabolically speaking, does not necessarily want you to go on this downward trajectory that just goes on and on and on until you hit that magical whatever idea that you have in your mind about what you should weigh, when it really is in blocks, and let your body just adjust to that new. And then, if we're speaking in the the macro world, where we go into another deficit, where the deficit isn't based on how many pounds we want to lose, but maybe a period of time in which we're comfortable committing to a slight caloric deficit over time through
well, none of our members were on an upward trend to gain weight. No one said, hey, let me see how quickly I can put on 40 pounds. Sometimes it's over 20 years, but nobody wants to give it the same 20 years in reverse. Okay, I'll take 20 years to lose it. No, I want to lose it in 20 days. So it's getting your head set in. Every pound off, just like every rep of an exercise, is progress. And it's going to come off a pound at a time. It went on a pound at a time. But because now you're going to be focused and concentrated, you can take that 20-year time it took you to gain it, and you can shrink it, and you can be intentional. You were not intentional about gaining 40 pounds. You just weren't. So now you're going to be intentional, and you're going to look at, how do I undo, reverse, or simply work at getting myself healthy? And if you can keep your health as a primary mindset, your body really will cooperate. It's very happy for the love and the attention, but the consistency, Jen. I bet you if we read back through your messages, consistency is the C word that comes up more than any other. And that takes.
And I said, and I feel like a broken record, but sometimes we need to hear it 1,001 times, especially when we get into us having this conversation. Even when I say my VIP group friends, this is what I'm talking about is group. Those are women who have gone through Stronger You, then Straight Up Strength, and now they're in sort of a monthly more interactive experience with me. But all that to say, some of them still admittedly struggle with that black and white thinking, like, it's all I can tell you is that you do have to keep going up so that you can personally develop the confidence you need to keep going, to know that the stuff, to what Barbara's saying, makes a difference in your health. And when you keep doing that and you don't focus as much as the number on the scale, even though that, not to say it's not important, it can be both. It can always be the primary thing that we're striving for, because it may not come as quickly as we want to. Whereas we know when we drink the water and eat plenty of high fiber and protein and we move, we're like, I generally feel pretty dang good. So that's a win in and of itself. And you just need to lather, rinse, repeat that a lot.
You can feel better. What I love about it is you can feel better in your second week. Some people think, oh, I'm not going to feel better till I lose my 40 pounds. That's so not true. You start to feel better and sleep better and have more energy as soon as you start feeding your body the right foods. And they say, wow, I didn't know I was going to feel better this soon. I thought it was all out here, but it's right here. And this doctor that I went to in Syracuse had a great analogy. He said, Barb, you are a classic on-off person. You're either all on or you are off and you're trying to do as much damage as possible. He said, I want you to take the plug, put it in the outlet. It's in the outlet all the time. You are on. Stop saying it's not an in plug, out plug thing. You're not now off. So do all the things you're not supposed to do and then put the plug back in. Leave the plug in and live with the plug in all the time, modifying as you need to. He said, you're this. You're on.
Yeah. But that's a classic marker of folks that struggle like that, to your point, like the 40 pounds doesn't come on overnight. It's years in the making of lack of activity, poor food choices, all of those things, just little by little, because you don't notice it.
No, you don't.
So slight.
On overnight, you'd be shocked. You'd wake up, but some people act like, I woke up, I was 40 pounds overweight. What happened?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, like I always say, like, think about any time you run into somebody who you haven't seen in years and they've markedly changed, either they look a lot older, they've lost a ton of weight, or they've gained a lot of weight, but there's a moment where you're like, wow, this isn't how I remember you in my mind.
Correct.
Right? But it took time for them to get to whatever that new,
Whatever it is.
whatever, how they're ever presenting, except when it's ourselves, we see ourselves every day. So we don't really notice. And you think about remember this happening a little bit in COVID. It's like everybody's starting to wear sweatpants.
So true.
A little snug, and you're like, I don't really notice. Like, I don't want to, I don't want to be in my jeans. I'm at home. Like, and then all of a sudden I heard this over and over again. People were like, how is it that in COVID in a year, I put on 20 pounds? I'm like, well, even something as simple as not commuting to work is
Correct.
a reduction in your daily activity expenditure. The getting around your house to pack up your stuff to go to work, getting dressed, walking from your car, taking the train, all of it matters. And so you multiply that over, a 52-week period, it is absolutely not surprising. I would love to actually ask you though, what do you, that on or off thinking, how long did it take you would you say to like feel like you were different on the other side of that?
It took a while. It took a while, I have to say. And when I started doing it for a living and talking about it with others, it really became my, it really is a doctor heal thyself. When I started living it every day and realizing for me that the benefits and then talking about it to others, I had to be true to myself. So I actually needed to do it as a job. I really did, because I felt like I was always going to find a way around. I spent more time trying to find a way around it than going right down the middle. I did spend a lot of time doing that.
That's so interesting because I made a joke, even though I just said it's one point in this conversation, I said, oh, I haven't had like a massive physical transformation. But I know that part of the reason why I picked this as a profession was as a way to keep myself consistent and accountable.
Absolutely. That is it.
That's the way to do it because, and I'm like, and my goal was to just be really dang good at it. Right. Like, so, and I, fortunately still here after 30 years of doing it, I'm like, I still love doing it. Do I feel like it every day? No.
No, I did not feel like it today. And I was so happy to go in and teach a class where these people were so pumped, and the energy exchange of wow, and the give and take, which I get from the message board. I think those of you who are participating on the message board, you don't realize how one or two things you say, you're feeling them, you're saying them. I'm going to tell you 7 other women are saying, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me. There's only so many emotions and feelings we can have in this process. We're more similar than we are different. Those of us who've traveled a journey full of injury and surgeries and recoveries. Jen, you haven't had a large weight loss, yet you've committed yourself to health and fitness and wellness. We all have how we got here today, the story, and our stories build each other up and help each other find. I'm happy to say I was the worst weight loss person in the world because I thought apple pie could be a bread and a fruit. So I was that person. And I thought bread, fruit, apple pie. So that's where I went through. I took the hard road that I didn't need to take. But now looking back on it, I know that's who I am. If there's a way to dance around it, I'll dance rather than straight down the middle. So I no more on and off. It's just the life. It's just, and having more great eating days than not great eating days. That's really what it plays out to be.
And you string them together. But I love that you said that about in the chat, because I have said, people will reach out to me all the time. They're like, well, are you available for one-on-one coaching? I'm like, well, right now there are so many people in my community, in my different communities that I run, that I really just don't have the physical time. But also, exactly to your point, I think there's so much to be gained by being in a group of, like I said, like-minded individuals, similar goals. The goal may not be exact. There may be women in here, they're like, I just want to strength build. I don't have a weight loss goal. It's totally fine. This isn't necessarily a weight loss program, but what you are learning here is something that you absolutely should be doing if you have a weight loss goal. And if you want to age with independence and a body that is, an able-bodied body, and it's something you're going to have to do at some form of for a very long time. This isn't just doesn't just end in 6 weeks.
This isn't going to end. It's not going to end. And I think what I also love are people who reach out and say, I tried this on my own. I'm not having success. I'm going to tap into where other people are doing the same thing. I'm a community person. I live with community. Community inspires me, and I try to work within that community. But all the time, it's a give and take. We are gaining energy from this community, and we're giving to it as well. I would not have been successful doing this on my own ever. I have to be checking in with others. I have to be doing this with others. I'm not as self-motivated as I'd like to say I am. So this group like this, I think you're smart to say, I'd like to be with other people who are doing the same thing. That's huge for you to admit. And now you have found this group, and this is where you can find great success. And moving forward after Stronger You, Jen has it set up so that there's a continuum. You probably won't just all of a sudden say, and I'm good, I want to be on my own now. I think the group aspects that Jen has created here in this community, you can continue with both your fitness progress and your involvement in the community, which I think is the best of both worlds. I really do.
There was someone who brought up in the chat that I thought it was so lovely, because it was so gratifying to me to hear, as being in the online space. Yes, there's a group, and we don't necessarily, maybe we don't see each other in person. Like right now, nobody has their camera on, so I can't see faces, but I'm assuming, you watch this after the fact. But I want you to know, like, I start to recognize the names of the ladies that comment the most, and that really want to be a part. But I also know there are some of you that aren't commenting at all, but you're still taking it in. We all have different personalities. So I don't want you to ever think that you're not part of the community just because you haven't commented. I get messages like that all the time. I've never really said anything, but that was, like, it's fine. It's okay to be shy. I get it.
Right.
But all this to say, I do think that there is a power in a group program. To Barb's point, and just to continue on that, like to say, we are looking at this, and you have coaches who are experienced, you have other women who are like-minded. If someone has a question, generally speaking, there are 8 or 10 other women with a similar question. Even I wanted Barb to share her story, because I know there are a lot of you in here that will resonate with what she is telling you about what her journey. And I think, that is a very powerful thing, to know that you have access to somebody like that who has walked through what you're trying to do, what you might be trying to do.
And my body, we have obesity in my family, and my body, I always say, would like to weigh just a round number, 15 pounds more, or maybe 20 than it does. And it gives me reminders. We'd be okay, Barb, 20 pounds heavier. I have family members. My grandmother was almost 400 or more pounds when she passed away. So the obesity gene is real, and some of you see it in your relatives, and being aware of it, not to say it's going to be your story, but to be aware, as like we can be aware of any of our family members. They've got wide hips, they've got narrow shoulders, they've got big feet, all those things. Obesity is a huge genetic factor in my family. So I feel like at some points there's the trying to beat the odds, but being well aware. I've chosen it to not be my story, but not without effort. Now, there's a natural tendency that it would like to probably weigh a little bit more and maybe eat a little bit more, but I just keep that awareness. And you can look around your family members, and you can see for yourself some of the tendencies.
I want to
saw menopause. Someone just mentioned on here, Jen, except during menopause. It's a great question. I felt like I lost my belly over 6 weeks. There's a joke I'd like to say to my class, where some of us in menopause, we go to bed and we have a waist, and we wake up and it's not there. So we shake the sheets like, wait, is it in there? Because when I went to bed, I had a waist, and now it's gone. How did it be gone in the night? That's a very real thing. I'm going to say to Vicki, you're not kidding. There's body changes that come with hormones and age, and belly issues that never existed for me personally, became me personally. So I thought working out all your life, you were going to avoid all that. All my doctor keeps saying to me, my gynecologist, when I go in and cry and say, but Dr. Gelati, I thought I was going to avoid, some of this. and some of this in the middle. And she said, all I'm going to say to you, Barb, you don't know what you might look like if you weren't working out. Okay. All right. I'll go with that. But
Yeah,
yes,
I think I like that. And it's something I know. I mean, what we need to understand too about that transition is that, you know, when your estrogen is tanking, the way your body lays down fat is changing.
change it.
That's a very like clinical way to say it. So but this is again another argument for not carrying extra weight if it's not necessary, because you know, you can't spot reduce and you can't choose where you lose and gain. All you can really do is want to keep it lower. And you know, again, nutrition isn't part of this program, but what I can tell you off the bat, managing your blood sugar is one of the most powerful things that you can do, because it will help to mitigate that belly fat. Going on fasting diets and things like that is not the way to go. And in fact, what it does is it prompts you to eat more at the end. So I would, you know, start with eating regular balanced meals with protein, with fiber, with healthy carbs, so that you don't feel like you want to snack on everything in sight because you're trying to diet all the time. Is it more nuance? Are there nuances? Absolutely. But that's where you start. That's where you start. And you know, and if you don't know, if you truly, this is one of these things that when it comes to conversations I have a lot when I was doing more one-on-one coaching, and even women that I talk to in my nutrition, because I do have a nutrition program, have no idea how many calories their body needs, like for maintenance. I'm like, we got to start there. Spoiler alert, online calculators. You don't necessarily need a coach to tell you to have a starting point, and be willing to like give that a shot. Like, wow, could I just pay attention to what it says that my body needs for the weight that I'm at right now? Women have been so conditioned to have like the piece of toast and tea and run out the door in the morning, not realizing that sets you up on that blood sugar roller coaster. And that ultimately prompts snacking later on, overeating later on, more belly fat, more visceral fat. This could, you know, dovetail into something completely different. But all that to say, you know, there are power in our daily choices just across the board, you know, and I know and I love that Barb's speaking to this, because I think what she's saying is it's simple, but it's not easy. And it takes daily effort and takes daily awareness. And it does for me too. It does for me too.
Well, because even without struggling with weight, let's say your weight is not a struggle. It's being fit won't happen it's not going to happen by accident, and being strong. And I'm fortunate to work with women in another environment, senior environment, where the oldest person in the class is 95. These 85 and 95-year-old women are so excited to be lifting their weights. They did not grow up in a generation where somebody put a weight in their hand. And they were fairly fit because they were more active. They walked a lot, they bicycled, they weren't going to a gym, of course, but they liked the idea of getting stronger. But what I love is they're doing it because they want to carry their own groceries. They want to remain independent living. So as I project out, I'm now 66 as of last week. I project out and I see how they landed where they landed without knowing a lot of what we know today. So what we're able to do now is add that strength training solidly into our lives. And we are going to have a different 85 and 95-year-old existence. God willing, we're there, because of the strength and the muscle that you're building today. So while it's about meeting your goals and getting where you want to get, remember the picture is we're hoping it's a long picture. Yeah. And we're investing each and every day in being 95 someday and carrying our own groceries into our house.
Yeah, so, I say that a lot. You know, think of it as a long game, and you also think of it as an investment in your future, like a retirement account. And it's easier, not to say it's easy, it's easier to do it now.
It really is.
Then wait until you're 75, because most of the people that I talk to, and I have clients that are in their 70s that take my online classes that are very fit for their age of 80. I have a couple that they're 80 and 81. They've been working out with me for more than 10 years. You wouldn't know that they were 81 and 80 because they have done these things. Right. But they're like, yeah, it was around 75 where I started to feel things start to slow down. They're like, yeah, some days it's just hard. You know, some days it's just hard. But I think when you are thinking in terms of maintaining your independence, how you want to age, then it's like, wow, that's a pretty easy decision to make, you know, like You just got to do the one
Right.
thing. And I think like in your case, like if you're teaching the women in their 80s and 90s, there is a sense of community too. There's, showing up and you working out with your friends, and at whatever level is appropriate.
Whatever level, and they're all different, and they're so fun. I just had a woman come back from visiting her sister. My person is 90, her sister's 96. She said, I brought her a pair of exertubes and I hooked it onto her doorknob, and I told her her posture is terrible and she needs to work on her posture and her rhomboids. I said, how did she take that? She said, not very well, but she's never taken anything I've said very well. And I thought, this is awesome. 90, 95, right? I mean, it's just it, and so it goes, it was just very encouraging to hear. She threw a pair of exercise tubes in her suitcase to go visit her sister.
I
And
love that.
she said, I left them there. I told her, I'm going to check on you.
Love it. Well, so the other I had mentioned I was going to talk about really two main things. This idea, I want to bring it back full circle. This idea of, and I think this is a great segue, is if you view it as a long game, you really are never behind. It's just always about showing up, right? Showing up. And even, yes, you're going to have weeks, you're going to have, weeks where I say life gets lifey. But when I fully appreciate when it's new to you, I talked about this to you all in the last call, is that when it's new, it's going to feel hard. It's going to feel clunky. You're going to be like, I don't know, because I'm not used to fitting this in my day. I'm curious to know, and you can let us know if you watch this after, because I would imagine most of you are going to be watching this on the recording, but put it up in the group chat. Like, do you feel like it's getting at least a little easier to make this in your daily life? But the other piece I want to talk about is, modifications. There have been some comments like bad knees, bad shoulders. And one of the things I always say, like, be careful of labeling your body bad, because it's a story you start to subconsciously believe, and it can prevent you. It's not to say we don't have arthritis and things like that going on, but it can prevent you from progressing if you keep doing that tape too frequently. So I often find, when clients come to me, even in a one-on-one setting, and they're like, I have bad knees. In my mind, as a trainer, I'm like, we got to strengthen the muscles that surround the knees. Now, to them, the story they've been telling themselves is, well, I can't, my knees are bad, I will hurt them. When the truth is, when you strengthen the muscles that surround those joints, I'm using the knee as an example because it's a common one, we start to experience less knee pain. And it happens in every group when they're like 3 or 4 weeks in, like, yeah, my knee pain's starting to get better. I'm like, exactly. And I know it doesn't intuitively feel like it's going to benefit you. Now, of course, there's some outline. As somebody who had arthritis, I've had double hip replacements. Also, I lived with arthritis for many years, and I want to be sensitive to the fact that it's can be debilitating on certain days. But then you have to really be discerning, like, okay, there is a little bit of touch and go, right? How much is too much for me? Am I looking at joint replacement? I can't necessarily answer that. I absolutely point you, in the direction of other folks to talk to, and I'm happy to talk to you about my experience. But Barb is also, where I was going with this, has also been through significant injury, in the past 10 years?
Yeah, 10 years.
Due to accidents. And all I can say is, and there's probably definitely something for another conversation, because I know we could go on and on, but clearly these are setbacks, painful, time off of exercise, fear of gaining weight, fear of losing fitness, all of that are very real things. That's something I have experienced multiple times over. But I share that because some of you are going to run into that at phases of your life. But I would ask you to go back to what we were just talking about. Like, why would you want to keep showing up for yourself and strengthening your body? Because there is light on the other side, but it takes you showing up to do it.
Right. Yeah. And the recovery process, believe it or not, one of the things you don't want to hear when you have something happen is, well, you're so lucky you're in such great shape. Well, you're not feeling lucky when you're there with surgeries, facing recoveries. But the doctors will continue to say that the shape you are when they meet you right after your injury is going to change the whole trajectory of your recovery. Starts with the fitness, that the shape you're in when you get hurt, or when you need the joint replacement, or even when you're ill. All those things, and you're not necessarily processing this on a daily basis. Oh, I'm putting in everything good. when something happens and the rubber hits the road, you are really, really setting yourself up for a better, I don't know about best, but a much better recovery. And
Yeah, oh,
that,
for sure. And even in a small, yes, of course, like we know that folks with better muscle mass are more resilient overall. As far even if you, God forbid, you get cancer or other illnesses, that
sure.
the more muscle you have in your body, the more metabolically healthy you tend to be. That's what the statistics say. I would say my life experience tells me that as well. But that's talking about things at a cellular level. But let's talk about body function, right? To that point, like if you do say need a joint replacement, if you can maintain your muscle and your function up to that point of surgery. So I always say, I'm like, the arthritis isn't going to go anywhere. It's, you may just, you're going to get to a point where you're like, it's time, but at least you will have the strength. And so I've had, in this past 6 months, 2 of my clients have knee replacements. Makes me sound like I'm sending them in, but they're, one's 70 and the other one's 68. They've been active their whole lives, but they were like, their recovery was like a 4-month recovery. And they're like back to, and they, and by the way, 6 weeks after the surgery, they're like, nope, we're going to do upper body and core. It's like we work around
Right.
the limitations. We work around. We don't just say, I can't do anything. Like, oh, I hurt my wrist. I'm like, okay, let's work around that. Let's work let's work.
Other things, right? Well, it
So
depends on how much you make it your life. Yes, it's part of what you have to consider now, but it's usually one joint, hopefully not two, but how am I going to, and those of you who are now in this program long enough, you've seen the modifications, you've seen how you do different days, upper body, lower body. There's always things to do to move more. It's not a wash. It's not a total wash.
yeah,
Rarely.
I would say like you become like the queen of the workaround. Just a side note for me, like I admit, I was like, this is embarrassing to admit, but I pulled my back out on Monday making my bed. And I was like, okay, oh, yeah, that's not good. It's always something dumb, right? So I've just been kind of like in this spasm all week, and I'm like, but I'm fine. I'm fine. Wednesday, I got online to teach my class. I was like, y'all, I said, I'm going to do what I can. I'm like, not today. Not
Right.
today, Friday, 2 days later, I'm like, I'm going to do what I can. Now, mind you, when I'm coaching a class live, I'm down on the floor. I'm back up. I'm not in one place for too long. So I'm like very gingerly, moving I said, but I know how to move my body after like that, and you have to get creative. I understand, if this stuff is new to you, you're not thinking that way. But I would also just say this, being part of a group program, this comes up in all my, especially with my people that have been with me for a long time. They're like, hey, I'm working through this thing. I can always verbally say, hey, Barb, all right, wrist is hurting. This is what you're going to do. And while we're doing this, and people are so appreciative of that, they're not like left there hanging with, no options. So
No options, right. When I go into a class, I have a couple people who definitely have got real issues. I mean, rods in their backs. So I just say, look, everyone here has ankle, wrist, elbow, knee, big toe, earlobe, neck, shoulder. Pretty much you're going to pay attention to that, and we're going to work around that. Our job is not to make it hurt worse. Our job is to support what supports it, and to work around that area to perhaps take away some pain. But and then I have one woman who says to me, Barb, you know how last week the pain was in my knee? Why does this pain now? It moves. And now it's in my shoulder. Last week it was in my neck. It's like the little pain fairy. It just travels around your body. It might manifest itself differently on different days. But every day that you feel something, it's not to make that feel worse. It's to make the rest of your body feel better, whatever that takes.
yeah, I know. And it's like a never ending.
It's never ending. Just go with it's never ending, but you're going to know enough how to work around it. That's what you're going to learn.
So, all right, you guys. So this is what we'll wrap it up, because I know we probably have places to go. I'm going to just quickly check the chat and make sure that there's anything that we need to address. Diane, I'm in a hotel this week. I had to increase my weight due to the weights in the weight room, and I realized I could lift heavier. Yes, we're going to be talking about that in our next.
That's great.
We will address that in the next call, like kind of how to move into the next thing. And so the nutrition program, I am going to do that in the fall. I usually run it concurrently with my Straight Up Strength program. I'll circle back on that. I just want to look at Holly Clark, she had a direct message question. Oh, okay. So she was asking about injury, actually. She's like, how can I modify for the next few weeks, focusing on upper body workouts until this settles? I think we covered it. I didn't even see that question. It's like I read your mind.
Mhm.
I'm also one of those people who have struggled with life the past few weeks. Yep. I'd like to regain my consistency, but need to ease up on the legwork so I don't jeopardize my hiking trip. Any recommendations? So yeah, and that was, we kind of touch on that, but she's asking specifics. And so what I would say, Holly, if you happen to catch this after the fact, and I'll try to remember to put you a note in the app, but like focus on the upper body and core for right now. If your knee is aggravated, ice your knee, rest your knee, listen to your body. Third thing I would say, when you jump back into your workouts, maybe just try body weight before adding load and see with a little less reps. I always say just be conservative, but be curious, because rest is one thing, but sometimes movement is not the worst thing. And then even for lower body, like just walking, like making sure that if you're able to walk, then you might be able to like at least try someone. I would probably stay away from single-sided stuff at least for a while and just focus on, squats and bridges and modified deadlifts. As far as that part's concerned. So I kind of detailed on that. So when we meet, the next time we meet is a TBD date, because I want to check with Barb, because I want to make sure she can be there. And I'm talking, so we're going to be coaching with you actively in the group for 2 more weeks. And as I said, you have access to the program for 6 months within the app, and it just keeps repeating itself. We won't be actively in the group, but I do check. I don't know why I'm hearing. I don't know if that's coming from Barb's end, because everybody else is on mute. Anyway, we will be. You'll have some options, and I want to talk to you about that at the next meeting. My Straight Up Strength program does start in September. I always run a free challenge. It'll happen the week of September 9th. Those workouts, I will just say, are a little bit more rigorous. And I don't say that to scare you. I say it to set expectations. So if you feel like you're at the point where you're like, you get to the end of 6 weeks of this, August 16th, you can repeat the program you can keep working on your progress until we hit that free fitness challenge the week of September 9th. And then Straight Up Strength is an 8-week program. Again, it's a little bit more robust. There's live workouts. It's follow along video as well. So part of the reason that I created Stronger You in the first place was when I was running Straight Up Strength, as I mentioned, when I opened the call, I had some women that were like, this is just it's a little too much for me. I need to work on my foundations. So the way that that was part of why I did Stronger You. And since then, when I run Straight Up Strength, is we always start together as a group, and it's written in the app like you're getting in Stronger You, so that if you need to do a version of it where you're not having to keep up with Jen coaching the class, you can. So you're not left behind. You can still make progress. So you might not be at the level that maybe some other people are at, but there's not that pressure to feel like you have to keep up. So I want to let you know that that's there for you. But the other thing, again, that Barb and I had talked about, we're going to chat about this more. If there is a segment, if there are a segment of you that feel like you need a little bit, you kind of need to stay in this group, we can absolutely just please reach out to us. Just put it right in the feed. We can absolutely talk about doing a coaching pod that's specific to you, as long as we have enough people to run it. Now, it will be separate from Stronger You, like a continuation as a bridge, but that's just something that I have done in the past. And I, talk about Barb with her schedule, how that would work, but we're definitely open to that. So that's it. So if we have any questions, we have this is a smaller group than I anticipated, given that there's 250 women in this program, but I have to imagine people will listen to this after the fact. So if you do listen to it, please hit us up in the main feed, leave your questions and comments. We're both in there every day, and divide and conquer, Barb.
It's been great getting to know them through their messages, and through those of you who aren't messaging us. We have your names, we know who you are, and we're glad you are working out. And if there's anything you need, and if there's any questions, no question is not a good question, because you've seen when someone tags in, you're hitting it up for 2 or 3, 4 or 5 other people. So any questions, any comments, it's really, that's why there's a community out here for you, for us, because we're in there with you. We're feeling your enthusiasm, and we're loving your progress. It's great.
Yay. All right, ladies, thank you so much. And I will get this replay up within a few hours. Takes a little bit to download from Zoom, and I will share it. So again, until then, keep an eye out, email from me, I'll announce it. We'll send you messages in the app with the next live call. All right.
Thanks,
Talk to
Vicky.
you later.
Well,
Bye.